another episode coming today, so I don't have to change that. I just have to change blue to black. Yep, and then this to that. Warning, the following program is recorded live and is not intended for children. This program may contain dark and graphic content that may be distressing for some viewers and against the terms of service for some platforms. The themes and opinions expressed in this program should be considered entirely fictional and should not be used for political or academic purposes. Facts are not checked, and no sources or citations will be provided. Should you choose to redistribute this broadcast in part or in whole, please do so at your own risk and only in good faith. Thank you again for joining. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Hello and welcome back to Rainbows and Razor Blades, a show from the void. On today's episode, we are going to be looking at my first look at... Let's see if I can bring it up. Does that work? It's called... Hold on. Oh, God. And I get away with it every time. It's because I have to make it seem like that I'm here, but I'm actually just selling ad space. Guys, thanks for joining. We'll be right back after this. We finally have the Patreon up. It is Patreon/Baphomet Flowers. So I think that's kind of interesting. We will be right back. So you can actually pay me to put up ads. I probably won't run them, but basically you could. Let's see, where is it? Where's the window capture? Where the fuck did it go? Where did like the very basic thing go? It's pointing at Slither. Why is that? I don't know. There we go. Transition. Alright, here we go. Alright. So we ended last episode talking about this guy here, the orator. Nothing special about him. Alright, these are new for me today. Bone Cache Overseer. I like the art. I like it a lot, actually. I think it's cool that it's a squirrel, even though it kind of looks like a rat. I wonder if this is one of those things that was like designed as a rat and commissioned as a rat, but then they were like, oh shit, we need more squirrels. But the fact that also it is a black squirrel is hilarious. So Squirrel Warlock. And I love that it's a creature, by the way. A one-dropping creature for black is amazing. Pay 1 life. Draw a card. That's actually good. Activate only... Only if 3 or more cards left your graveyard this turn, or if you've sacrificed a food this turn. Okay. I mean, that isn't bad, because that's going to happen kind of often in this set, because this set is a self-mill set with that other ability. It's not like Dredge. It's not like Scry. It's like something in between those two. So this is on theme. I like the design. Pretty cool. I like the word a lot. Bring me my harvest. Bone Cache Overseer. It's just like a good name for a card. This one looks like the artwork from the white one that was an enchantment as well. It says gift a card. You may promise a gift, so it gives them the card draw. So it's 3/2 black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's pretty good. Then, if the gift was promised, that creature isn't legendary. Oh, and that creature isn't legendary. Create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1. That's pretty good. I mean, the giving them a card thing is not great, but being able to have 2 of their like really good effects trigger, because like you can do that like late game. Like that's a 5-drop. Like if they have like a 5-drop or even 6-drop creature on the board, and you're just like, oh, that's cute. Die. Oh, from your graveyard. Oh. Well, I mean, that's still really good. I was thinking that you could kill their creature and then resurrect it, but actually you can't. I missed that part. It's target creature card from your graveyard. I read the word target creature and just brain zonked. It's still not bad. It's still a pretty good resurrection spell. Is it a rare? Is that printed a rare? Yeah, it's printed a rare. Consumed by greed. Oh my god, the artwork is really cool. those poor chipmunks, not the squirrels. No. So it says you can give them a card, and it's an instant spell. It's gonna be a kill spell, maybe. Yeah, target opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. If the gift was promised, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Honestly, not terrible. But the thing is like the greatest power among creatures they control is actually pretty good. And at instant speed, it is viable, but it just isn't that great. And I would just want terror or murder. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's interesting, but if it wasn't instant, it would just be bad. But it is instant, so it's playable. Anyway, Cruel Claw Heist. Look at this dude. Gift a card, 2 black. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. Okay, so we're getting the sorcery speed hand snipe. You may choose a non-land card from it. Exile that card. If the gift was promised, you may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. Oh, okay, that's actually pretty good. I mean, it's not great, and again, it's sorcery speed, and it is 2 black, so that is kind of limiting. Not really, but like it is kind of color limiting, especially in limited. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting more than it is good. Daggerfang Duo. I feel like this is like the pre-constructed deck rare. You know what I mean? Like this is the one you buy and it just like comes in it. Daggerfang Duo. They look really cool. And especially because it's nighttime, you can tell that they're like not. It's interesting that there's squirrels and rats. So they're kind of interesting that's cross-factional, it seems. Death Touch. Ooh. When it enters, you may mill 2 cards. Oh, that's so cool. So we actually do have literal mill in this set. Because we have the blue ability, which goes with it, which is like it looks to the graveyard. And then we actually had one card that was maybe printed, I'm guessing, as like a reprint that had flashback in blue, which was very bizarre. But I liked it. Death Touch. When Daggerfang Duo enters, you may mill 2 cards. You may put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, which like is really, really good if you're playing graveyard like nonsense. Should we act now or later? The rat asked. Both, whispered the squirrel. That's so funny. The rat and a squirrel. Dark Star Augur. And that's a 3-drop. A Bat Warlock that has Offspring. And it is 2/3. Does it flying? It does have flying. So at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose like equal to its mana value. The fact that you can choose to Offspring it is pretty good. This is the kind of card that like you can definitely build around. But like, yeah, because it has Offspring, it becomes just good enough to be playable at 3 for a standalone. But because like Vampire Nighthawk, like flying Death Touch Lifelink, 2 black, 1 of anything, 2/3 flyer, pretty good. Offspring for a 1/1 and a 2/3 for 2 black, 2 of anything. Like you're getting into the territory where like black, the spell better be at least this powerful, right? Because you can run sorceries that are this powerful, like mirror type of things, board wipe type of things. Like 4 can do what 5 can do competitively on like just undercosted good cards, like just value cards. So I think that this is like approaching a really good card, but is very balanced as well. Because you have to pay that extra 1. But being able to draw cards and gain advantage, especially early, like if you play this as your turn 4 and it ramps you really hard on turns like 4 and 5, even if you lose half your life, you have usually gained for that life that you've paid, which will probably be like half your life, depending on the format. Like depending on if you're building around that or not. Like if you don't build around that, you're paying about half your life, and that can be fine, like because you'll gain board state control because it is a 2/3 flyer. You'll gain damage advantage. Usually, will pay off 2 turns later if they don't answer this thing, and it's cheap enough that they have to answer it. I think it's worth playing. I just don't think it's great. That's my assessment of the card. But I love the design. I love the Bat Warlock. I love like all these weird types. Dire Sight. Dude, look at the artwork on this. This is one of the coolest cards ever printed. Surely it does something good, right? Okay, it's a sorcery for 3. And it's a Surveil 2. That's the one where they go on the bottom, right? Then draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life. Surveil 2. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest on the top of your library. Oh, on top of your library. Oh. Okay, so this is basically what blue is doing, but it's paying life to do it. That's pretty cool for black to get. I'm not so sure black has ever not been able to do that, But this is interestingly costed. That's my assessment of that. Downwind Ambusher. Look at this dude. Is he a skunk? It is. It's literally a skunk. That's so great. Oh, it's Flash for 4. A 4/2 for Flash. Wow. And then, okay, so when Downwind Ambusher enters, target creature and opponent control gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. And, or no, not and, or, choose one. So it's or, destroy target creature and opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Well, that's really good. That's the kind of card that, like, especially can go in an assassin deck. Like, a skunk deck is a meme. But an assassin deck, like, this is actually doing something kind of interesting mechanically. I think that this card is very playable. And it's not like undercosted. It's like, because something like Muldrifter that gives you 2 cards it's got Evoke. That makes it really good. So this is just like, is good, but like, I don't know. It gives you board control, which black needs. Early Winter. Aw. Choose one. Exile target creature, or target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. This is interesting. I mean, it's overcosted, but it's fast. It's just, do I really want to be paying 5 for removal? Never. But so far, we have seen not so much hardcore removal in this set, which I kind of like, because this set is not really overpower curvy so far. Like, blue has actually had some of the most power we've seen so far. Like, just overly board statey, swingy creatures we've seen in blue. Feed the Cycle. As an additional cost to cast this spell, forage or pay black. To forage, exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. Interesting. So food tokens actually mean something. So as an additional cost to pay, forage, or pay. So it's either 2 or 1 of anything. So this better be a kill spell. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Oh, it's so good. So you actually cannot do it without paying 3. But at 3, I better be getting that at instant speed. So this is your staple run 4 of card, for sure. Like, there's really no reason that if you're trying to play black, you wouldn't want to do this. Like, black removal, unless you're playing around black removal, like playing to not have to include it. Oh my god, what the fuck? It's a worm. Let's go. Is it a worm? It looks like a worm, but it's actually an elemental insect. And it costs 8. And it's 6/6. Oh, but it costs less, so it gets cheaper. For each card you own in exile and in your graveyard. That's really interesting, because normally exile doesn't get, like, looked at mechanically. I mean, I guess it can now, because it's like, it used to just be quote unquote removed from the game, and no card would ever therefore would ever say that. But this is really interesting. Card you own in exile and in your graveyard. And it's menace, which means that it can't be blocked. I think that's what this means. It can't be blocked except by its own color, or by 2 or more creatures. Well, let me look up what menace looks. Menace is. Sorry, it's been a very long time since I've played this game. Menace. Like, I've heard of cards, and so I know some. Ooh, sorry, hold on. Menace. Is an ever. It's trying to advertise crap. It's an evergreen ability, and it creates, so they can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the color. I was wrong. So it's just like yeah, they just made this a keyword. Menace can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. So where did that big swinging worm go? There he is. Huskbuster Swarm. He's not even a worm. It's not even. Menace and Death Touch. You know, it's very big, it's very swingy, and like I said, black needs to establish game state, and in a limited format, this may be something that you may actually want to draft, believe it or not, because, like, games can go for a long time when their board state stalls, and in an underdeveloped meta, or I should say underdeveloped board state meta, that means that you're concentrating a lot on spells. What's really interesting so far is that we've seen a lot of blue spells that refer to, like, doing things to spells when spells are cast, but we actually haven't seen any good spells yet worth, like, doing that too. So, like, I'm curious what red's gonna do and green's gonna do. I mean, obviously I'm curious, but So far, we just haven't seen any really like we've seen a lot of things that refer to the graveyard, but not a lot of things that puts them there. We're starting to see a couple though, like with black especially, which makes sense. But they have the word mill included, and it's interesting that it wasn't included on blue. Blue is more traditionally mill. Lizard Assassin, Offspring 2. You may pay an additional 2 as you cast this spell. If you do, when this creature enters, create a 1/1 token copy of it. Oh, it's just the Offspring ability. I don't know why I'm like bugging. It's a 1/2. Oh, it has landfall. What the fuck? That means when a land enters. Yeah, literally said whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. Okay, this card is a 4 of, and you build around it every time. This is a dumb fuck ability. This is like if like people don't know how hard in the paint landfall goes if they didn't survive the Naya block. Like that was I mean like that's where it's from, so like obviously. But like it was like low key not broken but it was like it was underdeveloped in terms of creative space that should have otherwise occupied but didn't. Dude, I feel like that Lotus Cobra came out of that set. And did that thing have landfall? Like that thing was busted. Landfall's broken. There's also like that red one. There's a lot of good stuff. So anyways, this just feels like it comes right out of Naya. It's interesting that it's black. I would expect this from red. I would not expect this from black. And it's interesting because it's doing damage. It's not life loss. This is a very strange creature. But anyway, it's really good because you can pay 3 for 2 of these effects that then have the land effect, which you then pay like a pain land or whatever it's called, a crack land. You know, you put it in, they lose 2. You crack it, you put in another land, they lose 2. Right? That's 4 life loss, and all you've paid is 3 and played a land. Like, that's not bad. If you have 2 of these on the table and you do this again to them the next turn, and then you get like another land, and then you're like hybridizing green, so you ramp through the mana so you can get the offspring. And you're like building like Llanowar Elves or whatever the fuck you're using to ramp, and you're like playing Lotus Cobra, right? Like for like and that's the thing. That's the thing with being a 1-drop. You can get away with running it because it is a 1-drop. And there's better 1-drops that I'm probably just not thinking of that are like, well, if you want to run a 1-drop, you could run the infecting 1-drop, But anyways, I think this card's really cool. This is so far one of my favorite cards in the set. Maha. I shouldn't do that joke. That's terrible. Maha. It's Feathers Knight. That's an Amanda Bynes joke from the 90s, by the way, from a show called The Amanda Show. Or maybe it was All That, but I think it was The Amanda Show. Either way. It's a Maha joke. Can't make that anymore, though, because it's bad. You can't do it. Cancel joke. 3 and 2 black. Legendary creature, Elemental Bird. This is fucking amazing. Look how cool this thing looks. This better be good. Okay, Flying Trample, already really good. How big is it, though? Ward, discard a card. Interesting. Especially if you're playing Madness. Because you could just give it Ward. Creatures your opponents control have base toughness 1. Its wingspan reaches from dusk to dawn. Oh, it's a mythic. Yeah, this thing is sick. This feels mythical. This is incredible. Look at this card. It's a legendary. Damn right it's legendary. This thing's unstoppable. You have to wrath the board to stop this thing. Creatures your opponents control have base toughness 1. And it just tramples them. And it isn't even that they take damage as though they did have only base power 1. Or base toughness 1. It literally reduces them to base toughness 1. Which means that if you have a static effect on the board that says creatures your opponent's control get -1/-1, and that's like a 3-drop enchantment. Actually, that may be even a 2-drop enchantment. I don't know what that card is, but I know that black runs it. It's just like the equivalent of I forget what it's called. It's not a ley line. I forget what the card is called, but it literally just says creatures your opponent's control have -1/-1, and then this one is that. So it's an endless wrath. I mean, this card is you could build an EDH deck around this. This thing's dumb good. And it's costed perfectly. And it's legendary, so you wouldn't really want to play it anywhere else but, like, an EDH format. That is a really nicely designed card. I like that a lot. Moonstone Harbinger. Wow, what a cool card. Look at this bat. He's, like, holding an axe. Okay, let's see what it does. Flying Death Touch. Okay. And for 3, so a 1/3, whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, bats plural, you control get +1 and gain death touch until the end of turn. This ability triggers only once each turn. Moonstone weapons drink in the last light of dusk to give their wielders an edge in combat. It's no Vampire Nighthawk, but it is a interesting enough card. It's just well balanced. I like the design. It's not a Vampire Nighthawk, and I'm going to run Vampire Nighthawk every time. Nocturnal Hunger. This is an instant. It looks really abstract. I like that for the instant. How it's like not embodied. It's more of like an energy. I like that a lot for the artwork commission. Gift a food. Like it already. And then destroy target creature. The gift wasn't prominent. You lose 2 life. This is pretty good. For black removal for this cost, this is pretty good. It's not great. This is like your limited sealed pool like pick if you need the removal. I don't even know how to say that. Osteomancer Adept. Look how cool he looks. I don't really understand what I'm looking at, but it looks really interesting. I see some weird, there's like 10 animals in this. Is that like a weird like skeleton, and then below it is like a weird like vole or something like that, and then it's like his tail, and he's like covered in feathers? I can't really tell what I'm looking at. I'd have to get closer to the screen to understand it. Is he like, I have like an open mouth? Anyway. Squirrel Warlock, 2/2, Death Touch for 2. Pretty good already. Pretty freaking good already. Anyways, tap. Until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging, in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. I don't know what that is. To forage, exile 3 cards from your graveyard to sacrifice a food. Or sacrifice a food. If a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. What if there were 2 counters? I guess it would just be redundant. But it'd be cool if you could like anti-proliferate it, like remove target counter from target permanent. I guess that wouldn't really matter that much. I mean, it's not that I'm just thinking. I don't know. I think this is pretty good. Until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying another cost. To forage, exile 3 cards from your graveyard to sacrifice a food. This is a card that you run 2 of in a green hybrid deck in a modern format, and you make something wacky with this. It's just a good utility. It's properly costed. It's very competitive. It just isn't ideal. Like, it isn't like the card that you run the way that like Snapcaster Mage was like the card that you run. But this is really good. Like, this is like one of the cooler cards so far that we've seen in terms of the rares, because there's a bunch of junk rares we've seen. But this one's pretty good. You may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging, which basically means that, like, yeah, you're not losing much if you're playing like blue hybridized mill. I would run this card in like a 3-colored modern deck with decent land fix. I would put this in with like Kitchen Finks, you know what I mean? Or like because you wouldn't want to put it in with something like Muldrifter, because you couldn't get its evoke cost bonus, and it doesn't play off of the into play kind of thing. But that's another thing. There's been a lot of good into play effects. So this is a really good rare card. That's my assessment of this. Persistent Marstalker. It's a 2-drop for a 3/1, and it gets +1 for each other rat you control, and then it has Threshold. Whenever you attack with 1 or more rats, if 7 or more cards were in your graveyard, you may pay 3. If you do, return this dude from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Yeah, this is a 4-of card. This is either you build around or you draft. And if you draft even 2 of these, your opponent is in trouble, because they bonus off of each other. So all of a sudden, literally turn 2 if you ramp, or turn 3 realistically. Turn 3 if they have no removal, you're looking at racing 8 damage at their face, and you've already hit for 3. So that's like 8, 9, 10, 11 damage on turn like 3. It's like, yeah, pass the turn. What am I going to do on turn 4? Like, what's my curve going to look like on turn 4? Like, hopefully it's going to look like, not this. I don't know. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Where'd it go? Target opponent discards 2 cards. Then if you control a rat, surveil 2. Yeah, okay. Nothing really to write home about. Ruthless negotiation. Look at this artwork. This artwork is super bizarre. It's a sorcery. Target opponent exiles a card from their hand. This spell, if this spell was cast from a graveyard, draw a card. Okay. And then it has flashback for 5. Okay. Nah, it's just not good. It just isn't good. Anyway, I cut that card, I'd rather just like if I saw that in a deck, I'd be like, yes, it works, but I would cut it and put something better. Rotten Mouth Viper. Wow. Look at this thing. It looks cool. Oh, it's a mythical rare. Okay. Fasten your seatbelts. So it's a 6-drop for a 6/6. It's already pretty big. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may sacrifice any number of non-land permanents. The spell costs 1 less for each that you sacrifice. So off rip, I mean, that's pretty good. Especially if you're playing like a token sack and like if it hits the graveyard benefit effect on the board, because this is the type of thing. This is a finisher, so this comes into play when you need it to, every time. And then all right, let's see what the other effect is, because I'll bet it's going to be good. Whenever that it enters or attacks, put a blight counter on it. Okay, are we trying to? Is that good or bad? Probably it's going to be good. Then for each blight counter on it, each opponent loses 4 life, unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. Holy fuck. Oh. Okay. So, it's basically like a lesser Annihilator ability. It seems like something that they could have put in the Eldrazi set type of thing. It's really not that spectacular because it's just overcosted. And like if I'm paying 6, I want to win the game. I don't want to like kind of maybe win the game with a stupid snake. I want to win the game at 6. Like if I'm playing competitively, but like as like a draft pick, like yeah, fuck yeah, throw that thing in. Like why wouldn't you want to kill someone with that thing? It's cool as fuck. Ravine Rider or Raider. Look at this thing. This thing's awesome. I've said that about like everything in this set. The set is so cool so far. Look at it. It's like over a bunch of like dead things, I think. Menace. And then it just powers up. It's just a standard mana dump power or upper. This could be a reprint, but it's not. It's cool. Let's see. The path of the Cliff of Heroes is rife with bandits, expertly camouflaged in the dense flora of valley. Interesting. It's just a very flavorful card, but it could fit in any set that has ever printed cards at that cost and at that like it's just doing like what Shades do or whatever it's called. But now it's a Lizard Rogue. Whenever one or more creatures you control die, create a food token. Oh, that's good. This ability can only go once per turn. Ew. I mean, it's still good, but ew. Because here I was thinking, I was like, well, we've broken the game. We have jumped the shark, because I'm like, this is a 1-drop. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. Also pretty good, because that can accumulate like really quick. That's like a turn 5 type of thing where you're expecting them to like, I don't know, play a stupid creature and like stabilize their board state. And instead they're like, okay, sack all my permanents because I've been paying this like stupid cost or whatever to like have offspring. Sack all of them, sack half my food tokens, mill the top 15 cards of your deck, and you're like, okay, that was really annoying. And then it passes back to them. They're like, okay, do it again, but this time mill another 6. So you're like, okay, there goes another 15 and another 6. So now you've taken 36 cards out of your deck. You're more than half dead. Like that's like life counters. That's like if they're attacking your life total, they're on curve for killing you on turn 6. If they're milling you, they're still on. Like you don't suspect that they would be, but then all of a sudden it goes off. So, but the thing is there's better cards than this to do that with, I think. So it's not bad, but like, anyways, let's see what the next thing does. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting more than I think it's really good, but I may be missing something and it may be extraordinary. The thing is like I don't know what the power curve on mill is these days, and I just think that if you're playing mill competitively, and I could be wrong. I think you're not playing this card. Unless I'm wrong and it's the opposite and I'm just missing something. And it's like, no, because the mana, if it was just sitting there, would be bad. But because you can put it into that, it opens up a new dynamic and blah, 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 blah. Sagas are so good. Stargaze. X and 2 black. Look at the artwork. That's so cool. Some Batfolk dedicate their lives to seeing the world beyond them. Dude, that's me. Dude, that's literally me IRL. This card's me IRL. Stargaze. Okay, let's see. Look at twice X cards from the top of your library. Put X cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose X life. Ew, that last part. That last part, man. I mean, like, I get it. Look at twice X cards. And you can't rearrange them. You know, it's not blue, so I get it. But because it's not blue, I'm like, well, I want it to be. I don't know. I don't dislike that card. I just wouldn't play it. Sinister Monolith. It's an artifact. It's literally just an artifact. This is our first artifact. So it's a black artifact. That also, I think, started in Shards of Alara. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. On the combat step? That's kind of weird. And then it's, okay, tap to pay 2 life and sacrifice it. Draw 2 cards, activate only as a sorcery. This is just bad. I mean, it's not horrible. It's just like, it's just a thing that does things. And I don't care about it at all. Season of Loss. Oh, this is one of the mythics in the set. So this is the Paw Print cycle. All right, let's see. So we either get each player sacrifices a creature, and you can do that 5 times. So you can basically wrath the board, or you can draw a card for each creature you control that died this turn. So you can kill 3 and then draw 3. And up to 3, I guess. And then the last one is each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creatures in your grave. What the fuck? So the last one's just like a straight up fucking gut punch finisher. Because it's not even looking at the other 2 effects. It's just attacking you outright. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Okay, so you just immediately, if you're building EDH, just throw this in. I mean, the fact that it says each opponent should clue you in that's an EDH card. Or Commander, whatever they're calling it. Elder Highlander Dragon sets. Commander sets. Yeah, I think this is really sick. If I ever pulled this card out of a pack, this would go in an EDH deck immediately. No doubt about it. Starlit Soothsayer. Like the name. Like the artwork. Oh, it's a creature. I was going to think it was maybe like an enchantment or like a sorcery. How is it a bat? I don't really see the artwork. I love those abstract drawings of the magic. That is exactly my art style. My art style is maybe even a little less like gothic than that, like darker than that, and a little more psychedelic than that. Anyways, I'm on a tangent. So let's see. It says the lunar paean is upon us. Let us turn to our ancestors for guidance and look to our children for hope. Yeah, it's very cliche. A bat cleric flying. Does it have any life gain? At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, surveil 1. Look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. This is again a card that comes in the pre-constructed deck that you take out for better cards. Starscape Cleric. It's a bat cleric. Love the artwork. It says Offspring for 3, but it itself is only a 2 cost. Can't block. It's flying. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So if I gain 5, do they lose 5? Or is it just I gain 5, you lose 1? I think it's the latter. But it's like competitively viable, but still honestly kind of bad if it's the other. It may be broken the other way. I think the way that I interpret this is that if I gain 5 life at a time, I'm only gaining that life once. So whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. It's not that good. Thornplate immediate. But I do want to say that I love this card. I love the balance of this card, and I like the artwork, and I like that it's bad. Anyway, Thornplate Intimidator. It's a 4-drop for a rat rogue that can have offspring. And it says when this creature enters, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Yeah, but I'm not paying 6 and 1 black for a 4/3 and a 1/1 that does this. I'm just not doing that ever. Like I'm just passing on that. I don't even necessarily like the art. This may be one of my least favorites so far of the entire set. Wow, what are we even looking at here? What in the fuck? It's a rat warlock. Oh, I see his face. There he is. He's like hunched over. So 3 and 1 black. Whenever Wick or another rat you control enters, create a 1/1 black snail creature token if you don't control a snail? What the fuck? Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on a snail you control. Okay. Okay. So you pay. So okay. So this is a very strange card. You know what this is? This is a commander card because it's the alignment rule, I think they call it, where if it has those symbols, it is now canonically those alignments, and therefore you can use cards. The traditional EDH way would just ignore that, but the commander way does not. And I like the commander way. I do like that. So it's got the Grixis, sacrifice a snail. Wick deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to each opponent. Yeah, each opponent. There's if you were wondering whether this was EDH or not, then draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Wow. Oh, that second part. I mean, this is something I would run with like a Morphling deck and like sack an 8/8 Morphling that had like that ability from Lorwyn that lets the other creature back in after it is like transmorphed or whatever it's called. I don't know. I honestly just wouldn't run this card. I wouldn't even make the deck as a meme. I don't dislike it. I personally just wouldn't want to build around that. It seems kind of lame. Valley Rotcaller. Okay. Menace. But he's only a 1/3. But still though. Whenever he attacks, so it's not when he deals damage, it's not the blue trigger, but it's whenever he attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. Interesting. It's interesting that the squirrels don't like the lizards, but the squirrels will fuck with lizards too. Like it seems to be both. Like the white squirrels don't fuck with the lizards, but like the black squirrels fuck with the lizards. Like why is there even a black squirrel? Like that's crazy. He's a warlock, I guess that's why. We all share one life and one death. Oh my god. Well, okay then. Whenever he attacks, lose X life and you gain X life. Yeah, you know what? I mean, he is a menace. For a 2-drop for a 1/3, he's the type of card that like you could run 4 of, but you're kind of really wanting to run 2 of. That's my assessment. Thought Stalker Warlock. Look at this dude. That's so sick. He's got the shadow of the wolf. That's really cool concept art. Lizard Warlock. I'm surprised this isn't like an enchantment or like a kill spell or something. Just because the shadow is really cool. So let's see what the effect does based on the art. When Thought Stalker Warlock, which mind you, coolest name of the set so far, enters, choose target opponent. If they lost life this turn, they reveal their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and they discard that card. Otherwise, they discard a card. Yeah, that's actually a rogue effect, though. It's interesting that they printed this as a warlock. I mean, they gave it the lizard, but the lizard doesn't seem to matter as much as, like, the rogue or the assassin. And I'm pretty sure that hand attack of this variety only goes to those creature types. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I mean, I guess warlocks can do it, too. And I also don't know what other sets that I'm missing. Because, like I said, I haven't played in years, so... I think we're almost done, guys. I'll give you these two red ones, and then we'll be done for the day. Wick's Patrol. So it's a 6-drop, 4 and 2. I love the artwork. Look how cool that is. He's like riding on it. The rat's like riding this thing. That's super weird. It's a 6-drop for a 5/3 creature. And it says when it enters, mill 3 cards. Okay. If you do, well, I mean, how? If you do? Oh, when you do. Wait, why did I say if? I'm so dyslexic. Jeez. I'm like, what? When? Oh, because you know why? It's because of this I above the when. It's like when Wick. Yo, dyslexia's weird, dude. When Wick's Patrol enters, mill 3 cards. When you do, target creature an opponent controls gets -X until the end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among cards in your graveyard. Honestly, for 6, it better kill something. You know, it's an uncommon. Some cards have to be bad so that other cards can be good. What a hideous creature. And the worm's no looker either. Grumble, Revival Marsh Toss Stalker. It's kind of a funny name. Alright, 2 more. Agate Assault. Choose 1. Agate Assault deals 4 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. For 3 at sorcery speed, like, I guess. Or exile target artifact. Okay. Only an amateur crushes their enemies with a cold rock. Yeah, I mean, this is just a very standard, like, red thing that it's doing in this set. Not much to say about it. The artwork is, like, much more dynamic, though. Look at this artwork. It's an otter. It's a red otter wizard. What the fuck? Okay. Elena's Pathmaker, which implies an Elena. Alania? Alania? I don't know how I'm supposed to say it. 3 and 1 red 4/2. When its Pathmaker enters, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your turn, you may play that card. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. It's like if I'm paying 4 to do that, the likelihood of that being useful. But it can hit land. Yeah, that could be really good, I guess. Alright, guys, thank you so much for joining. We will be back again another time.